everybody. I just wanted to share some thoughts on this Friday afternoon. Hope you're all doing well. In our men's Bible study over these last several weeks, we've been studying John chapters 16 and 17, and Jesus is giving sort of his farewell message to the disciples before he's arrested. And this message is simultaneously sorrowful and yet hopeful. In John chapter 16, verse 20, Jesus says, "I tell you the truth, you will weep and mourn while the world rejoices." Think about that. You will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. That would be a pretty depressing message had Jesus stopped right there. You will experience grief and sorrow, and the unbelieving world around you will find great joy in it. But Jesus doesn't stop right there. He goes on to use an illustration. He says in verse 21, a woman giving birth has pain because her time has come. But when the baby is born, she forgets the anguish, Jesus says, because of her joy. And then he goes on, "Now is your time of grief, but I will see you again and you will rejoice," he says. And then he says this, "and no one will take away your joy." The struggles of this world, the trials of today are like, Jesus says, the pain of childbirth, which one day will be no more. There is coming a day when you will have joy that cannot be taken away, eternal joy. At the end of the chapter, Jesus circles back around to this idea. He says in verse 33, "In this world you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world." I have this in my Bible, in my office here. I have this Civil War era copy of Wesley's poems, and these are helpful. There's a poem that I've come back to time and again that's especially helpful, I think, in challenging times. Listen to this. Listen to what Wesley writes. He says, "Trouble and loss and grief and pain have crowded all my 40 years. I never could my wish obtain and own at last with joyful tears. The man whom God delights to bless, he never curses with success." God is at work in the midst of difficult times. He's using our struggles, our suffering, our seasons of darkness, Wesley says, to bless us. He also reflects in this poem on a new perspective, a new understanding of suffering that God had given to him. Listen to this perspective. He says, "God of my life, how good, how wise, thy judgments on my soul have been. They were but mercies in disguise, the painful remedies of sin. How different now thy ways appear, how merciful when most severe." Whatever you're experiencing today, whatever pain or struggle you find yourself in, remember two things. First, Jesus has promised us that today's sufferings are like the pains of childbirth, that they are soon to be eclipsed and maybe even forgotten in the joy that awaits us as children of God. And second, recognize that God is at work in your life in the midst of suffering and struggle. And his work is always good and always merciful, even when all we can see and all we can feel is the pain and the trial and the suffering. We can trust Jesus because he suffered as well, and because he has overcome the world. So have a blessed weekend, and we'll see you Sunday morning as we worship together.